Hi there, welcome to The Intersections. I'm your host, Mike Mooney, and I'm really glad that you're here with me today. You know, the point of The Intersections is to help you to release limiting beliefs about yourself and begin to see yourself through the same eyes that the source of life within you sees you, so that you can think in alignment with who you really are, which changes not only the way you see yourself, but changes the way you create in this reality that we live in. So I want to jump in a little bit on something kind of unique thought train today. I have a plan of all these different things I want to teach, but sometimes when you feel an inspiration, you just got to go with it because there's somebody who needs to hear it, and sometimes it's just me who needs to hear it. But I'm sure there's people out there who are needing to hear this concept of value. Where do we get the idea of value? You know, when you look around at like precious metals or stones, you know, gems, they have intrinsic value. Or if you look at money, money has its own value that we assign to it. And really all value is assigned by us. So how do we determine the value of a human being? How do we determine if someone actually has worth? And what is that worth? Well, I think it's really important, and I don't want to make this a theological or biblical debate. In fact, I never want that to be the case. This is just the way that it's been revealed to me, and I'm hoping that it resonates with you as you try to look at your own understanding of the concept of worth, and as you look at your own self-worth. I think a mistake that a lot of people make is they look around their conditions or their circumstances and they say, well, if this is a reflection of my worth, I must not be worth much. And then you would say, well, someone who's making a lot of money and living a really nice lifestyle and maybe having a lot of fun, they must have a more worth than I do. And the lie, the deception that's built into that concept is that you can't look at your conditions and determine your self-worth. You can only look at your conditions as a reflection of your awareness of your self-worth, which calls into question the idea of what makes someone worthy. And that's really an existential or eternal question. What makes someone worthy? Within the construct of Christianity, the idea of being worthy is that God is worthy and we are unworthy, and so therefore we have to engage in worship. We have to engage in sacrifice. We have to engage in biblical principles that give us access to his worth. Or you might say, if you're sola scriptura, sola fide, you might believe in some ideas that Jesus gave up his worth so that we could become worthy to the Father by basically being covered in the worthy blood of Jesus, the Lamb. And that concept, I think, heads down a right metaphysical direction in that it helps us to understand the concept of worth. Jesus was worthy, and the reason he was worthy is because his thoughts were in alignment with his Father's thoughts. That was it. He didn't have any misalignment because he only chose to think thoughts that he saw in his imagination, that he felt were in alignment with the Father. And he could feel the resonance, the pleasure of those thoughts and those feelings, and he recognized that in himself, and he knew that's what made him worthy. And so his alignment with his eternal self is what he knew made him worthy enough to lay down his life. That's the Jesus perspective on it. There's another way to look at this, because a lot of people I know haven't subscribed to the death and resurrection concept, and I personally don't think you have to believe or understand that concept in order for it to be true, and in order for it to have power. But what's true for every single human being is that you can look at your self-worth through the lens of, where am I from? Who am I? And the answer to that question is, you're an extension, an expression of the source of all that is. The source, or I am, consciousness that created everything is your source, which means that you have at your very core of who you are a resonant DNA or resonant energetic alignment with God. And so if we know that that's true, or maybe we don't know that's true, then let's start with that. If we don't know that's true, then what we end up doing is saying, well, if I don't know that I have the same value as God, then I have less value. And if I have less value, I have to do something to make myself valuable. And the whole universe is looking at you saying, well, if that's what you believe about yourself, then that's what is going to be drawn to you. You believe that you're less than valuable. And so things that are less than your perception of value will be drawn to you. When you begin to see yourself, and this is the real point of the whole teaching, the whole concept here is when you begin to see yourself as valuable, as worthy, the universe, which is to say all the non-physical and physical aspects of existence, begin to send to you that which resonates with your perception of your worth. So when you look around your environment, whatever good and bad things might exist there, and you say, that's what I'm worth, this is a reflection of my value, you are the one who's actually undercutting what you can have. And so how do you then, from that philosophical perspective, how do you say, well, I want to change what's going on around me? The answer is become aware of your value from your perspective, which means that you get to decide what you're worth. And when you decide what you're worth, and it's the same worth that God sees or Source sees you as, those energies, those perspectives align, and you feel your value from the inside rather than through the perception of the outside world. And I can tell you that that perception of yourself being in alignment with God's perception of you and your value to Him, to the eternal perspective of the life creator, which is your higher self. It's actually your eternal self in connection, in resonant energy existence. I amness. It's such a hard concept to try to explain, but the point is that when you see yourself that way and you resonate at that frequency with Source, then the universe brings to you a confirmation of your value. So it's very important to keep your focus of your awareness on who you really are rather than on what's going on around you. Because as you expand and the physical universe tries to catch up with your expansion of who you are, you're going to naturally say, well, this is less valuable than what I believe about myself. And that's largely true. It's always going to be a little bit delayed because time has that effect. It's on a delay. Time is not real time. It's not real with right now. It's always a little bit delayed, and especially when it comes to value. You could look at the whole planet right now and say, well, is this in line with God's value, God's worth? Source's true worth is not reflected in the entire planet. I would say there are things going on this planet, in the entropy of this planet, that are products of sloppy creators and not a reflection of the true value of the creator, because our perceptual lack of awareness actually causes us to create things that are lower than our own value. And we do that as a species, as a consciousness, a collective. We do that individually as well. So hopefully that all makes sense. I'm going to wrap this up, and I just want to say that I hope that you're able to quiet your mind, quiet your thoughts, detach from what's going on around you, and give yourself a chance to see the eternal value of who you really are through the eyes of Source. Even if you can do that for 10 seconds, watch what happens. Watch the manifestations inside you and the manifestations correlating outside of you over the course of the next few days and the next week. It's pretty shocking stuff. And don't forget to count. And when you feel something good and you have a thought that you know is an inspired thought, that's a manifestation. You don't necessarily have to have the manifestation come in the form of a new car or a big pile of money. Those things can come. But the manifestation starts with you being aware of your eternal value, your eternal self, and subjectively, not objectively, but subjectively realizing that you are the absolute center of God's universe. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Be sure and share this with your friends. Share it on social media. That's the best way for us to be able to get this kind of teaching out there for people all over the United States, really all over the world. And just remember that as you release your limiting beliefs and begin to see yourself through the eyes of Source, you will change the way you think about yourself and the way that you create. So thanks again for watching The Intersections. I'm your host, Mike Mooney, and we will talk soon.